She parked 2 trucks in my garage without asking, then filed a $2,000 HOA complaint against me for unauthorized commercial activity. Too bad she didn't know I leased that garage to the county sheriff. At 6 a.m. on a Tuesday, I walked outside to find 2 massive diesel trucks blocking my entire garage. Still warm, still reeking of exhaust, oil already staining my concrete floor. Through her kitchen window, Brenda was watching me with a coffee mug and the most satisfied smirk I'd ever seen. What she didn't realize, Deputy Martinez was coming by in 2 hours to pick up tactical equipment. The woman had just declared war on someone who documents everything and rents property to law enforcement. My name is Dale, and at 52, I've learned that most problems have simple solutions. 28 years fixing engines at the Ford dealership taught me patience, precision, and how to spot trouble before it ruins your day. But nothing prepared me for Brenda. I inherited this corner lot ranch house in Millfield, Texas when my wife Sarah passed 3 years ago. Cancer took her fast and the medical bills took everything else. Now it's just me, my German Shepherd Rex, and a property that's worth more than I can afford to keep. The salvation came from an unexpected source. The county sheriff's department needed secure storage space, and my detached 3-car garage was perfect. $400 a month doesn't sound like much, but when you're living on disability and a thin pension, it's the difference between keeping your home and joining the foreclosure statistics. Deputy Martinez has been renting space for 18 months now. Stores tactical gear, emergency equipment, evidence bags, shows up twice a week like clockwork, professional and respectful. It's a perfect arrangement that serves the community and keeps my electricity on. Then Brenda moved in next door. Picture a woman who thinks owning a landscaping business makes her the neighborhood's self-appointed property manager. She arrived 6 months ago with husband Chuck, an oil rig worker smart enough to travel for work 11 months out of the year. Within 1 week, she joined the HOA board and started her campaign to enhance property values. She drives 2 massive trucks, a company vehicle loaded with commercial mowers and a personal pickup that could haul a small building. Both are too big for her driveway, but instead of renting proper commercial storage, she decided my property looked more convenient. The warning signs started with her backyard barbecue 2 months ago. Around noon, both her trucks appeared in my driveway like they'd been there forever. I knocked politely. "Brenda, I need you to move your trucks. Deputy Martinez has his schedule checked this afternoon." She barely glanced up from arranging her catered spread. "It's just temporary overflow parking. It's my property, not a public lot." Her voice went ice cold. "Don't be so dramatic, Dale. One afternoon won't kill anyone." She left those trucks there for 6 hours while her party raged on. When Deputy Martinez arrived for his equipment inspection, he had to park on the street and navigate around her vehicles. Most humiliating moment of my retirement. That's when I realized this wasn't about parking convenience. It was about power. Brenda was establishing that her needs trumped everyone else's, including county law enforcement. The harassment escalated immediately. Next week, I caught her photographing my property with her phone, documenting every corner. Then came the violation notice. Unapproved commercial activity detected. Cease unauthorized business operations within 30 days or face $2,000 fine. She was targeting my lifeline. Standing there with that notice, watching her smirk through her kitchen window, the strategy became crystal clear. This wasn't random neighbor drama. This was economic warfare. Brenda had researched my situation, identified my vulnerability, and launched a systematic campaign to destroy my income and force me to sell. 3 days after that barbecue incident, Brenda fired her first official shot. A certified letter appeared from Millfield Meadows Homeowners Association. The complaint accused me of running an unauthorized commercial enterprise that violated residential zoning laws. She demanded immediate termination of all commercial activity, plus a $2,000 fine. She'd scheduled an emergency HOA board meeting for Tuesday and somehow forgot to notify me until Monday afternoon. Classic ambush tactics. Too bad she picked the wrong mechanic to blindside. I spent Saturday morning at the county courthouse digging through property records. "Well, I'll be damned," said Martha, the clerk. Your garage predates this HOA by 15 years, honey. That's what we call grandfathered use. Martha explained that when you build something before an HOA exists, those improvements get protected under grandfathered use clauses. But the real bombshell came when I researched Brenda's own situation. Municipal code clearly states that commercial vehicles over £10,000 require special permits for overnight residential parking. Both her landscaping trucks exceeded that weight, and she had exactly 0 permits on file. Tuesday evening, I walked into that community center meeting room armed with facts. 5 board members sat behind a folding table with Brenda positioned dead center like a judge at sentencing. Mr. Hensley, she began, your unauthorized commercial lease clearly violates Section 4.3 of our residential use covenant. We're prepared to impose immediate fines. Hold up there, counselor, I interrupted, sliding my courthouse research across the cheap table. My garage was built in 1987. Your HOA didn't exist until 2002. That's 15 years of grandfathered protection. Frank Morrison, a retired postmaster who'd lived here since Dirt was young, started chuckling. Dale's absolutely right. I remember when you built that garage. Brenda's face went from pale to red to purple. That's completely irrelevant. Current zoning supersedes. Speaking of current zoning, I said, let's discuss Section 12.7 regarding commercial vehicle storage. I produced photographs of her trucks, complete with manufacturer weight specifications and timestamped overnight parking evidence. Both your vehicles exceed the £10,000 residential limit. You've been in violation for 6 months without proper permits. Frank actually slapped the table and burst out laughing. Well, Brenda, sounds like you better read those zoning laws yourself. Looks like Dale just turned your own ammunition against you. The room went dead silent. Brenda had walked into her own trap, using zoning laws to attack me while violating those exact same laws herself. The meeting collapsed faster than a house of cards. The remaining board voted 4-0 to dismiss all charges against me and issued Brenda a formal citation for her commercial vehicle violations. But through her kitchen window, I watched Brenda pacing and gesturing wildly into her phone. The next morning confirmed my suspicions. Her trucks were strategically positioned to block my mailbox access. Brenda's public humiliation at the HOA meeting lasted exactly 48 hours before she escalated to City Hall. The certified letter from Millfield City Planning arrived Friday morning. The complaint alleged that my sheriff's lease was creating an unauthorized quasi-commercial district, complete with color photographs of Deputy Martinez's patrol car and equipment deliveries. Someone had been very busy with a telephoto lens. The complaint was filed by concerned residents, but processed by Jennifer Walsh from the planning office. That name rang a bell since Patricia Walsh from the HOA board had mentioned her daughter worked at City Hall. I decided to pay Jennifer a visit. The city planning office smelled like industrial carpet and broken dreams. Jennifer turned out to be a tired-looking woman in her 30s who avoided eye contact. Mr. Hensley, she said, fidgeting with her paperwork. I suppose you're here about the zoning complaint. I'm here about the truth, I replied. See, I've been wondering how someone knew to file this complaint using exactly the right legal language and perfect timing. Jennifer's face flushed red. I'd spent the previous evening doing research. Turns out running a landscaping business from your residence requires specific permits. Brenda's business registration listed her home as the primary office, but she'd never filed for a home occupation permit. Hypothetically, I continued, what happens when someone operates a commercial business from residential property without proper permits? Jennifer reviewed my documents, and I watched her professional composure crumble. These trucks, how much do they weigh? Over 12,000 pounds each. Both registered as commercial vehicles. Both parked overnight in residential zones without permits. There's something else, I said, producing photographs from her barbecue party showing client consultations. Landscaping estimates, design meetings, payment. Collections, all commercial activity in a residential zone. 2 weeks later, the hearing room was packed. Brenda arrived with a briefcase and enough attitude to power a small city. Mr. Hensley's commercial lease operation fundamentally alters the residential character of our neighborhood, she began. We have documented evidence of increased traffic, commercial vehicle activity, and unauthorized business operations. Then it was my turn. Commission members, I said, Mrs. Thompson is absolutely right about protecting residential character. That's why I was surprised to discover her own violations of the same code she's citing. I presented my counter-evidence methodically. Brenda's unpermitted home business operations, her commercial vehicles exceeding residential weight limits, client meetings conducted at her residence without proper zoning variances. Commission Chairman Robert Hayes cleared his throat. Mrs. Thompson, it appears you're operating a commercial landscaping business from your residence without proper permits. Brenda's confident expression melted. That's completely different, she sputtered. Actually, Hayes continued, Mr. Hensley's arrangement appears to be properly documented and legally established while your business operations are not. The commission voted 5-0 to dismiss the complaint against me and issued violation notices to Brenda. The insurance claim notice appeared in my driveway the next morning. According to Brenda's complaint, Deputy Martinez's patrol car had allegedly scraped her fence, causing extensive property damage. The estimated repair cost, $3,500. I walked over to examine the damage. The scratches on Brenda's wooden fence looked fresh enough to still smell like paint thinner. The marks ran in perfectly straight lines, too uniform to be accidental damage. Morning, Dale, called my neighbor Mildred from her garden. Saw some interesting activity over at Brenda's place yesterday evening. Woman was out there with a can of something, working on that fence real hard. Funny thing is, I could have sworn that fence looked fine during my afternoon walk. You might want to check the timestamp on my video from around 6:30 last night. I contacted my insurance company immediately, speaking with investigator Carl Thompson. Mr. Hensley, we get about 6 fabricated damage claims every month, he said. What makes this one suspicious? Well, for starters, the complainant filed within 12 hours with professional quality photographs and a repair estimate from a contractor who happens to share her business address. Carl arrived the next morning. These marks were made by hand tools, probably a putty knife or scraper, he explained. Vehicle damage creates irregular patterns. This looks like someone used a ruler for guidance. The Ring doorbell footage was the knockout punch. Mildred's camera had captured Brenda working on the fence at 6:47 p.m., carefully applying gray spray paint in measured horizontal lines. You could even hear Brenda muttering to herself. When Carl confronted Brenda with the evidence, the transformation was spectacular. Mrs. Thompson, insurance fraud is a felony carrying serious penalties, including potential jail time. The color drained from Brenda's face. This is all a misunderstanding, she stammered. The video shows you creating damage, not repairing it, Carl replied. You have 24 hours to withdraw this claim or we'll be filing criminal charges. Brenda withdrew the claim before lunch, but her reputation was permanently damaged. That night, I overheard Chuck through their open kitchen window. Brenda, this has got to stop. Insurance fraud? Really? I'm not going to prison because you can't handle losing an argument. The county tax reassessment notice arrived on a Tuesday. My modest ranch house had apparently increased in value by 40%, which meant my property taxes were about to jump from manageable to catastrophic. The new assessment put my annual tax bill at nearly $6,000. I drove to the county assessor's office. Your assessment was flagged for review based on a complaint about unauthorized commercial improvements, Janet explained. Someone reported that you'd converted residential space for business use without proper permits. The complaint came through unusual channels, she said. This one came directly from a city planning office referral. I drove straight to City Hall where Jennifer was waiting. Mr. Hensley, she said, I need to tell you something about that tax reassessment. She explained that Brenda had been pressuring her to find creative solutions for problematic property owners, specifically mentioning elderly and disabled residents who couldn't fight back effectively. She's been asking about other residents too. Mrs. Patterson on Elm Street, the Rodriguez family on Oak Avenue, all longtime homeowners, all dealing with unexpected HOA problems recently. The pattern was becoming clear. Brenda wasn't just targeting me. She was running a systematic campaign to force out established residents and acquire undervalued properties. I made copies of everything, Jennifer said, sliding a manila envelope across her desk. Brenda's requests, the complaint details, even some emails discussing neighborhood investment opportunities. My first stop was the Legal Aid Society office where attorney Rebecca Martinez specialized in elder abuse and property rights cases. This is systematic harassment with clear financial motivation, she said. We're not talking about neighbor disputes anymore. This is organized intimidation designed to force property sales. Rebecca explained that harassment campaigns targeting vulnerable homeowners follow predictable patterns. Your case is textbook predatory behavior, she said. But having documentation this detailed is extremely rare. If we can identify her other targets, we can build a pattern of behavior that's much harder for authorities to ignore. My next stop was Mildred's house, where I found her hosting what she called afternoon tea. 3 other longtime residents sat around her kitchen table, all dealing with recent HOA complaints or unexpected city violations. Mrs. Patterson had received noise complaints about her air conditioning unit. The Rodriguez family was fighting allegations of unauthorized vehicle storage. Frank Morrison had been cited for excessive lawn ornaments. Brenda's been busy, Mildred observed. Every complaint filed within the past 6 months, all targeting people who've been here longer than her sidewalk. Frank had pulled HOA board meeting minutes going back to Brenda's arrival. She's been asking detailed questions about property values, ownership duration, and financial hardship cases. Even requested a list of residents over 65, claiming it was for community outreach planning. Mrs. Patterson had noticed something else. She's been photographing properties when owners aren't home, measuring driveways, even checking mailboxes for mortgage company letters. We decided to coordinate our response. Everyone would document future incidents with timestamps and photographs. By evening, we'd assembled what Rebecca called the most comprehensive harassment documentation she'd ever seen. Brenda's desperation revealed itself in increasingly sloppy attacks. The morning after our coalition meeting, I discovered that someone had dumped motor oil across my driveway during the night. The attacks escalated throughout the week with amateur hour sabotage. Someone loosened the bolts on my mailbox post. My garden hose was cut in 3 places. Rex's water bowl was mysteriously filled with what smelled like bleach, forcing an emergency vet visit. Each incident was documented with photographs and witness statements. Mildred's Ring doorbell system captured shadowy figures moving through our yards after midnight, always approaching from Brenda's house. Frank Morrison discovered something even more damaging. Brenda has been using board letterhead to file false complaints with multiple city departments. Noise violations, health code infractions, even allegations of illegal dumping, all targeting the same longtime residents. The breakthrough came when Mrs. Patterson's security system captured Brenda attempting to disconnect electrical connections to her air conditioning unit. But Brenda's most serious error was interfering with emergency services. Thursday morning brought a house fire 3 blocks away. When the fire department responded, they found their usual equipment access blocked by strategically placed construction barriers that hadn't been there the previous day. Fire Chief William Torres was furious. Someone deliberately obstructed emergency access during an active fire response. This isn't vandalism or harassment. This is criminal endangerment that could have killed someone. The barriers had been purchased from Brenda's regular supplier and delivered to locations that would specifically impact emergency response to the targeted neighborhood. Deputy Martinez filed a formal report with the county prosecutor's office. This has moved beyond neighbor disputes. We're looking at organized criminal activity designed to force property sales through intimidation and sabotage. Local newspaper reporter Sarah Kim began investigating. Her article, Systematic Harassment Campaign Targets Elderly Residents, brought regional attention and prompted calls from other communities dealing with similar predatory behavior. By Friday evening, Brenda's landscaping business was hemorrhaging clients. Chuck's truck was conspicuously absent from their driveway most nights. But Saturday morning brought an envelope under my door containing photographs of my daily routines, Rex's walking schedule, and even shots taken through my kitchen window. The message was clear. Sunday morning arrived with unseasonable quiet. I was refilling Rex's water bowl when Brenda appeared at my back gate, dressed in pressed khakis and a polo shirt. "Dale," she called out with artificial sweetness. "Could I have a word with you? I think we need to clear the air." I activated the voice recording app on my phone before opening the gate. "Look, I know things have gotten a little heated between us," she began. "But I've been thinking about how we can resolve this whole situation without involving lawyers and courts." She opened an envelope and pulled out a stack of cash. "I'm prepared to offer you $20,000 cash to voluntarily terminate your arrangement with the sheriff's department. Clean break. No hard feelings." "That's very generous," I said carefully. "But why would you want me to end a legal arrangement that benefits the community?" She leaned forward. "Between you and me, Dale, I've got some big plans for this neighborhood. Development opportunities that could benefit everyone, but they require certain adjustments. Well, your corner lot has tremendous commercial potential. With the right improvements, it could be worth 3 times what you paid. Of course, that would require removing certain complications. I should mention that if you're not interested in this generous settlement offer, things could become very difficult for you. I have connections at City Hall, County Planning, even the State Real Estate Commission." "Are you threatening me, Brenda?" "I'm just explaining reality. Small towns run on relationships and favors. People who cooperate tend to have fewer problems with permits, inspections, tax assessments. People who fight progress sometimes find that bureaucracy can be very challenging. Think about it carefully, Dale. 20,000 cash, no questions asked. Or you can keep fighting and watch your life get very complicated. I'll need an answer by tomorrow evening." "I'll definitely think about it," I said. "Can I keep this overnight?" Her smile was pure predatory satisfaction. "Oh, and Dale, I'd hate for anything unfortunate to happen to Rex while you're making your decision. Dogs can be so vulnerable to accidents in neighborhoods where people aren't being cooperative. That threat against my dog was the final nail in her criminal coffin." The town council chambers had never seen a crowd like Tuesday evening's turnout. Every seat was filled with standing room only. I arrived early carrying a briefcase stuffed with evidence. Rebecca sat beside me. Behind us, our coalition had assembled. Mildred with her tablet full of security footage, Frank with his stack of HOA documents, Mrs. Patterson, and a dozen other neighbors. The local news crew from Channel 7 had set up cameras. Brenda arrived fashionably late with an expensive lawyer. Mayor Patricia Rodriguez called the meeting to order. "We're here to address allegations of systematic harassment targeting longtime residents. This is serious business that affects our entire community's character and safety." Sheriff's Deputy Martinez took the podium first. "We have documented evidence of property destruction, environmental crimes, interference with emergency services, and attempted extortion. This investigation has revealed an organized campaign designed to force property sales through illegal intimidation." Then it was my turn. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to hear something recorded yesterday morning in my backyard." The audio quality was crystal clear as Brenda's voice filled the chamber, offering $20,000, threatening bureaucratic retaliation, and finally promising that things could become very difficult. The room went dead silent. But the gasp came when her voice threatened Rex. "Dogs can be so vulnerable to accidents. Fire." Chief Torres described blocked emergency access during Mrs. Morgan's house fire. "Someone deliberately obstructed life-saving equipment. Mrs. Morgan could have died because of those barriers." The mayor asked Brenda if she wanted to respond. Her lawyer advised against speaking, but Brenda's ego couldn't resist. "This is all a gross misunderstanding blown out of proportion by people who resist positive change. I've been trying to enhance property values through legitimate business development." That's when Frank Morrison stood up. "Brenda, we've got your HOA meeting minutes where you called longtime residents obstacles to progress. We've got your contractor receipts for those barriers. We've got video of you vandalizing property. You tried to destroy our community for profit, and everybody in this room knows it." The crowd erupted in applause. When Mayor Rodriguez finally restored order, she announced that the city council was unanimously authorizing full cooperation with county prosecutors. County Prosecutor James Mitchell stepped forward. "Mrs. Thompson, you're under arrest for attempted extortion, environmental crimes, interference with emergency services, and conspiracy to commit fraud." As Deputy Martinez read her rights, Brenda's composure finally cracked completely. The room erupted again as justice was served. 3 months later, Millfield felt completely different. Brenda's criminal trial had been brief. She pleaded guilty in exchange for 18 months in county jail and 5 years probation. Her landscaping business collapsed, and Chuck filed for divorce. The house next door sold to a young teaching couple from Austin who baked cookies for the entire block. My expanded county lease was officially approved, bringing in $1,000 monthly that covered the increased taxes and provided financial security. Deputy Martinez now shares garage space with the fire department's emergency equipment, turning my property into an unofficial neighborhood safety hub. Frank Morrison was elected HOA president in a landslide, implementing term limits and requiring recorded meetings. Rebecca Martinez expanded her legal aid practice to specialize in elder harassment cases, using our documentation system as a template. She's helped prosecute systematic harassment campaigns in 6 other towns. Mildred's garden parties became weekly institutions. Mrs. Patterson organized walking groups. The Rodriguez family opened their garage for community tool sharing. I established the Sarah Hensley Memorial Scholarship Fund using a portion of my increased lease income, providing annual college assistance for local students planning careers in community service. Standing in my driveway watching the new neighbor's twin daughters play with Rex, I realized something Sarah would have appreciated deeply. Communities aren't destroyed by individual predators. They're strengthened when ordinary people decide that protecting each other matters more than avoiding conflict. Your turn now. Drop a comment sharing your own HOA horror story or neighbor nightmare. Subscribe to HOA Tales for more accounts of ordinary people fighting back against unfair systems. Remember, sunlight really is the best disinfectant for neighborhood bullies. Thanks so much for watching today's HOA Karen Meltdown.